On today's edition of Early Look, I'm going to be previewing the rematch between Sean O'Malley and Marlon Chito Vera for the UFC's bantamweight title, main eventing UFC 299, March 9th. In Miami, Florida. And if you've never watched the show before, I'm going to go through a bunch of different stats, a bunch of different intangibles, and then I'm going to give you my pick at the end. Some of the stuff may have relevance, it may not. You can decide that at the end. And once we get to the end of this video, let me know in the comments what your official prediction is. We'd love to hear from you. All right, let's get into a quick tale to tape between these two. This is going to be a stat card. Sean O'Malley, Chito Vera, the rematch. Of course, Chito Vera getting the win a couple of years back. We'll talk about that in a sec. But right now, Sean O'Malley 17-1, Chito Vera 23-8-1. O'Malley's 29, Chito Vera's 31. 5'11 to 5'8, 72-inch reach to 70.5. So you'll see there, O'Malley going to be a little bit bigger in this fight, and he's a little bit younger as well. Let's start with the current bantamweight champ. Sean O'Malley, who I mentioned there, is 17-1. He's got 11 knockouts, 1 submission, and 4 decisions. He's also got 1 no contest. I mentioned it there, 29 years old, 5'11 with a 71-inch reach. So he'll have a 3-inch height and 1.5-inch reach advantage in this fight. O'Malley is a BJJ brown belt, trains at the MMA lab in Sanibel, and also, gets a bunch of different training in, but obviously working with Tim Welch, his coach there. He's got fight of the night 3 times against Andre Sukumta, Chris Montino, and Piotr Jan. He's got performance of the night 5 times against Jose Quinones, Eddie Wineland, Thomas Almeida, Rulon Paiva, and Aljamain Sterling. He's tied with Chide Gillishaw for most post-fight bonuses in UFC bantamweight division history. He's also tied with Chito Vera and Rob Font for second most knockouts in UFC bantamweight division history. He's also got a couple other accolades. Highest striking accuracy percentage in UFC bantamweight division history at 61.2%. And he's also got the highest significant strike differential in UFC bantamweight division history at 3.89. O'Malley made his amateur debut way back in March of 2013. He went 9-2 as an amateur, made his pro debut in March of 2015, made his UFC debut in December of 2017 after winning on Dana White's Contender Series. His debut right there. Yeah, Terrion Ware was his debut. Like I said, back in December of 2017, so it's been a bit. O'Malley he is 9-1 with 1 no contest in the UFC. He's got 6. Actually, hold on, let me add that up again. I think my math might be wrong on that one too. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so I am right. 9-1 with 1 no contest. He's got 6 stoppage victories. Some notable wins for O'Malley in his career include Eddie Wineland, who at the time was a former title challenger as well. Got to mention that. Thomas Almeida, who's a hot prospect as well. Paiva, and then Piotr Jan and Aljamain Sterling is the biggest win that he's had, though, being Sterling, knocking out the champion in his last fight. His only loss is to Marlon Chito Vera, which is a fight that took place at UFC 252 back in August of 2020. So we're about 4 years, close to 4 years from their first fight. So it should be interesting to see how this matchup goes. O'Malley's had a number of layoffs in his career, going from Andre Sukumta to the Quinones fight. There was a 735-day layoff. There's an issue with USADA. You guys can go read up on it. I can't remember the exact details, but that was a big layoff for him. Then going from Paiva to Almeida, Paiva to Munoz, there's a 203-day layoff. Going from Jan to Sterling, there was a 301-day layoff. And then going into this fight, not as much of a layoff, which is good for O'Malley. He's only had 1 close fight in his career. That was a split decision against Piotr Jan. If you go back and look at the judges' scorecards, the media scorecards, I should say, on MMAdecisions.com, that was back at UFC 280 in October of 2022. Only 1 media member scored the fight for Sean O'Malley. 23 media members scoring the fight for Piotr Jan. So that's a fight that could have gone the other way and might have changed O'Malley's plans at fighting for bantamweight gold. So that's one we got to mention. And looking at O'Malley's stats, very impressive here. You look at this: significant strikes landed per minute, 7.25. That's one of the highest in the UFC. He's got a striking accuracy of 61%. His striking defense is at 61% as well. His takedown average is at 0.43. Doesn't get a lot of takedowns. His takedown accuracy is only at 42%. And his takedown defense is at 62%. But like I mentioned, BJJ brown belt, O'Malley knows to hold his own on the ground. So that's everything you pretty much need to know about the bantamweight champion Sean O'Malley. First title defense for him, and he does so against a former opponent, someone that he's lost to, the only loss that he's had in his UFC career. And why don't we talk about that guy being Marlon Chito Vera? Let's talk about him a little bit. So I mentioned it there. Chito Vera is 23-8-1. He's got 8 knockouts, 8 submissions, and 5 decisions. He's the number 6th ranked bantamweight. He's 31 years old. He's 5'8" with a 70.5-inch reach, so no major advantages there for Chito. He's a BJJ black belt and trains over there in California. He's got performance of the night 5 times against Roman Salazar, Brad Pickett, Andre Ewell, Frankie Edgar, and Dominic Cruz. He's got fight of the night 3 times against Song Yadong, Davey Grant, and Rob Font. He's tied with Rob Font for most post-fight bonuses in UFC bantamweight division history. He's got the most finishes, He's got the second most bouts in UFC bantamweight division history at 19. He's got the most total fight time in UFC bantamweight division history at 3 hours, 59 minutes, and 51 seconds. And yeah, he's got a lot of accolades as well. Most submission attempts in UFC bantamweight division history at 16. And he's 5th in most significant strikes landed in UFC bantamweight division history. So style-wise, this is going to be a fun fight. Two guys who love to slug it out. Chito did not have an amateur debut, went straight to the pros in July of 2010. Made his UFC debut in November of 2014. Where is that? That was at the, against Marcos Beltran, a fight that he ended up losing. Chito is 15-7 in the UFC. He's got 11 finishes. Some notable wins include Sean O'Malley, Frankie Edgar, Rob Font, Dominic Cruz, and Pedro Munoz. Some notable losses include John Lineker, Davey Grant, also lost to Jose Aldo, and Corey Sandhagen as well. Lost a split to Corey, although we'll talk about that fight in a sec. And yeah, so pretty decent record overall. Fought the who's who as far as the bantamweight division goes, and now it's Vera's first opportunity at winning bantamweight gold. He's had a couple of close fights. Let's go back to the fight he had a couple of years back with Song Yadong, a fight that he ended up losing. If you go back and look at the judges' scorecards and MMA decisions, you'll see, and that fight was in March of 2020, 7 media members scored the fight for Song Yadong, 9 scoring it for Marlon Chito Vera. So that's a fight that probably should have gone Vera's way. But if you go look at the fight he had last outing against Pedro Munoz, kind of surprised by this. I remember it being close, but went back and looked at the scorecards for the Pedro Munoz fight. That was back at UFC 292, which was the fight with Sean O'Malley, or sorry, the same card as Sean O'Malley. That fight saw Vera defeat Munoz by decision. If you go look at the media scorecards there, 3 media members scoring the fight for Chito Vera, 14 scoring it for Pedro Munoz. So that's a fight that probably should have gone the other way, just based off the media scorecards. So, that if he ends up losing that fight, he's not getting this title shot. And that would be 2 losses in a row for Chito Vera, as he lost to Corey Sandhagen the fight previously. So yeah, that's those are the 2 close fights that Chito has had. He hasn't really had any major layoffs in his career. Chito's been pretty active. And if you look at his stats in the UFC, Chito Vera coming in at significant strikes landed at 4.37. Striking accuracy is at 50%. His striking defense is at 51%. And his average takedown is 0.58. Takedown accuracy is only at 39%, so don't expect to see him get a takedown there. And his takedown defense is at 70%. Like I said, I think this fight will end up standing, though. All right, let's get to who I think is going to win this fight. Oops, that's not what I'm looking for. I am looking for this right here. All right, so let's look at the odds. Right now, odds makers have Sean O'Malley is almost a 2-1 favorite. In fact, he is 2-1 favorite on most books, coming in at about minus 205 around there. Chito Vera, the underdog, at plus 164. Who am I going with in this fight? Drum roll, please. Don't have a drum roll. I'm going with Sean O'Malley in this fight. So there's a couple reasons, and I do think as well, and let me just say this as well, I still think there's a bit of an unknown with O'Malley as well. So I'm kind of taking a bit of a leap of faith here by picking O'Malley, even though he is the betting favorite, and then I'll explain why here in a second. So first and foremost is, O'Malley, in my opinion, did not beat Petr Yan in that fight. So that was a tough fight for him. He ended up winning. The Aljo win was great. He's only the second fighter to knock out Aljamain Sterling. I do wonder if the weight cut was a bit of a factor for Sterling, as we now see him fighting at 145. We know if you cut too much weight, you're more susceptible to the knockout. Maybe that was just a tailor-made matchup for Sean O'Malley. Not taking anything away from that win, but that is one thing that does have to cross your mind. Like, how good is O'Malley? Is he just that good that he's able to knock out a Sterling? Or did Sterling put himself at a disadvantage for fighting kind of close together from the fight previously, cutting all that weight and being more susceptible to the knockout? We'll have to see, because it was a quick fight, right? It ended in the second round, but I'm banking on the fact that O'Malley is good, that things have come together at the right time. What's interesting about this matchup, though, is that Chito Vera's never been knocked out in his career. Can O'Malley be the first fighter to do so? You got to think with Vera's, fights that he's had, just way more experience. He's taken a lot of damage as well too, right? So that's got to add up as well. But I'm going O'Malley 4th round finish. So the reason I'm going 4th round instead of earlier on is because, like I mentioned, Chito Vera's never been knocked out in his career. If you look at O'Malley's wins, they typically are by knockout. It's the leading the way in terms of method of victory for O'Malley. So if you look at it there, 65% of O'Malley's wins are by knockout, 12% by submission. I think if he does win, it will be by knockout. Just 24% of his wins by decision. O'Malley's younger. Like I said, prior to that finish, or even getting that finish over Sterling, O'Malley looked good. I mean, I did mention the weight cut thing, but I think overall O'Malley has looked like really, really polished in that fight. Vera arguably lost his last fight, like I mentioned, against Pedro Munoz. He did not look competitive at all against Corey Sandhagen. I think that's one of the key things in this fight in particular, because what that showed me is that I don't think Chito Vera is a contender. And let's be honest here, if Chito Vera's not having that history with Sean O'Malley, I don't think he gets this title fight. I think Merab Dvalishvili deserves a title fight. I think Corey Sandhagen has a case for a title fight as well, especially considering Corey dominated Chito Vera in their fight. I know it says on the actual resume there that it was a split decision, but I don't think there's any way in hell you could have scored that fight for Chito Vera over Corey Sandhagen. I think Corey Sandhagen showed that there's levels to the bantamweight division, and Chito Vera showed that he wasn't a contender there. So, like I said, unless Chito does something different than what we've seen in the last two fights, I think O'Malley probably wins this, because I think you could make the argument that Chito Vera is actually declining a bit. Whereas I think with O'Malley, he's coming right into the prime of his career right now. And I think that's very interesting. Not to mention Chito Vera, typically a slow starter. If you go back and watch his fights with Cruz and Edgar, those were slow starts for him. O'Malley is not a slow starter. We saw that in the fact that he knocked out Sterling in the second round. I think that, again, makes it tough for Vera to win this fight. Like, I just don't see a clear path to victory. I think technically Vera's the better striker. O'Malley's got the power, and O'Malley's got a bit of a reach and height advantage too. So we'll see if Vera's able to deal with that. So yeah, I'm going Sean O'Malley, 4th round finish. Oh, also forgot to mention that if you look on the Tapology voting, you'll see there's 76% of people picking O'Malley, Vera 24%. That looks different than what the odds are showing for sure, because obviously the odds have it a bit closer. But yeah, I think Sean O'Malley wins this. Again, unless Chito Vera does something we haven't seen in the last two fights, I think O'Malley probably takes this. And I think this was very strategic on the O'Malley team's part of getting this fight as opposed to some of the other names in the division. With that, I think this is a winnable fight for O'Malley. Merab and Sandhagen, that's debatable. I think those are much closer fights than what we're seeing here with Chito Vera. So I want to know your prediction in the comment section below. Who are you going with? I want your official prediction. I don't just want to pick. I want to hear how you think this fight is playing out. Do you agree with me that if O'Malley does knock him out, it'll be a little bit later just due to the fact that Vera's never been finished? Or do you think it'll be earlier? And if you like Vera, I'd love to hear how you think he gets it done. I think if Vera does win this, it'll be a decision. I don't think he finishes O'Malley. I know they finished in the last fight, but and something I'd kind of glossed over a bit, that first fight, there's a bit of an injury there, right? I mean, Vera was the one that injured him, but I think O'Malley has certainly leveled up since that first fight. Again, we're talking about a fight that was 4 years ago. I think that O'Malley is certainly the better fighter at this stage in their career, and I think he gets the win here. Follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. I'm James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.